everyone, and welcome to today's edition of the SCHOTT Pharmaversity podcast. My name is Neus, and I'm gonna be your host. Today we will talk about a regulatory update that took place last August 2023 within the, let's say, general EU GMP guideline. The part that we will have a closer look at is an update or revision to the Annex I of the mentioned guideline. This revision now includes more details about the manufacturing of sterile medicinal products, and for the first time, the primary packaging is mentioned as a relevant, or let's say a key piece in order to ensure it. To talk about that, I have with me Robert Linda. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Neus.
Maybe known to some of you, Robert is our global product manager at SCHOTT Pharma. And Robert has been dealing with ready-to-use containers, vials, to be more specific, in the past. And now he's, let's say, sailing the ready-to-use cartridges path. And Robert, as said, has been involved in several sterile packaging projects already since a couple of years. So I'm happy to have you here. Are you ready, Robert? Shall we start?
Yes, of course. Ready when you are, Neus. Always good to be.
So let's go. So maybe to start with, Robert, could you provide an overview of what is this EU GMP guidelines?
Yeah, of course. So in general, the EU GMP guidelines, GMP standing for Good Manufacturing Practices, they are guidelines for the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, which are legally binding within the EU. And they not only cover, of course, the filling part, which is, of course, the most interesting part from a primary packaging supplier perspective, but also, of course, the manufacturing of active pharmaceutical ingredients, so the API, but also other parts like advanced therapy, medicinal products, ATMPs, and what we will dive deeper in today, the whole guideline and framework around Annex I, which specifically targets the manufacturing of sterile medicinal products.
Great, thank you. You've just mentioned the Annex I. If we dig a little bit further within the EU GMP guidelines, so could you provide an overview? What exactly is this Annex I referring to and its significance in the pharmaceutical industry?
Yeah, so as I said, the Annex I covers guidelines for the manufacture of sterile medicinal products, and it's a guideline that, let's say, has its roots already back in 1971 from the so-called PICS, so the Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme. And already there, they set up rules and guidelines on what to take into account when you want to produce sterile medicinal products. And over the years, this has been, let's say, this has become more formalized as the Annex I, which has been revised over the years. And now the last edition was published in 2022 and came into effect in August of 2023. And there have been several significant changes, and I think one of the important points is now that within the document scope is now also the primary packaging material.
Yes, so as maybe the audience can expect, this is why now we talk about that. So could you maybe briefly provide an update? What exactly has been now, let's say, updated in this Annex I provisions?
Sure. So aside from the primary packaging part, the main updates or changes or the introduction of a contamination control strategy. So in detail, very similar to the ICH Q1A. If anybody of the listeners is aware or is adapted that, and this is a strategy really defining all critical control points, assessing the effectiveness of the controls. So how are they designed, how are they organized, and then the monitoring of these measures, and of course managing these risks associated with contamination, and then last but not least implementing all of that into a continuous improvement process where you periodically review these measures and adapt them to newly identified risks.
So thank you. Yeah.
Maybe no, all good, all good. Yeah, there's more to come. Yeah, it's a longer guideline. So no, another critical or major change was the introduction of pharmaceutical quality systems and the quality risk management. But also these, let's say that's not completely new. Yeah, so they have also been already existent somewhere in the industry. With the guidelines being extracted directly from the ICH Q1A and the ICH Q9 and Q10. And this is really to pinpoint the quality system to effectively control all kinds of contamination, so microbial, particulate, and also pyrogens, in order to minimize them in the production, to ensure that in the end you have a sterile and safe to use pharmaceutical product for the patient.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, and it may be even helpful to have a more specific guideline behind. Yeah, thanks for that. So now thinking about if not fulfilled correctly, so what would be the consequences of a non-compliance with these mentioned Annex I guidelines?
Excellent question. Yeah, so of course we have to assess the risks, right? Which is exactly what we do in the contamination control strategy. So if we're not complying with the Annex I guidelines, this can have really serious consequences. So let's say it can range from product recalls, which happens more than we would like it to be. Yeah, but of course, product recalls is still, let's say, on the better end of the risks, right? In the worst case, of course, microbial contamination in a sterile product can lead to severe infections or even death of the patient, and that is, of course, yeah, something nobody wants to have. Yeah, so we need to ensure that we really thoroughly implement, control, and review and improve these strategies in order to minimize these risks for the patients. And just to give you some numbers, I mean, so we did an analysis of publicly available data from the FDA. So this is for the United States alone, and between 2017 and 2021, 20% of all parenteral drug recalls were due to the lack of sterility. So it's really a problem. It's good that it's of course caught by the regulatory bodies, but of course in the best case this doesn't even happen, and therefore of course we need very stringent controls and a good oversight and quality system to support that.
Awesome and incredible. Yeah, still the risk out there, and it's a serious issue. So what would be, according to your opinion, the role of the primary packaging in maintaining and supporting this integrity and sterility for the pharmaceutical products?
So the primary packaging is, so to speak, the first line of defense against environmental contaminants. Yeah, so it should protect the drug, contain the drug and leave the drug unharmed, and shield it from external influences. And by this, it also shields it from chemical and microbial hazards during storage, transportation, and use. And then, of course, it also plays a crucial role in preserving the stability and efficacy of the product, right? So this is what I meant with when I talked, or when I used the word leave the drug unharmed. And therefore, of course, the selection and design of the primary packaging components are essential to ensure the quality and safety of the pharmaceutical products.
Okay, thank you. And maybe now to close this dialogue, Robert, and taking as a central point the primary packaging. So what could be some of the challenges or considerations involved in sterilizing primary packaging components in order to be compliant with these latest Annex I requirements?
So I think I already stated quite clearly, that especially for parenteral drugs, of course, sterility is highly crucial. For parenteral drugs, of course, because we are crossing the natural barriers of the body. So, for example, the skin, when injecting a pharmaceutical. And then, of course, we need to look at it from two different angles. So the one mean of processing is that we have a terminal sterilization step where you fill your drug, which is, let's say, clean but not necessarily sterile, and also the container not necessarily sterile. And then after everything has been filled and properly sealed and closed, then you do a terminal sterilization step, for example, by putting everything into an autoclave. With a lot of drugs that are now on the market, for example, biologics, monoclonal antibodies, for example, but also growth hormones or insulin even, which is really one of the basic medications that is needed around the globe. This is not possible to do a terminal sterilization step because it would denature the pharmaceutical ingredient, the active pharmaceutical ingredient, and therefore we need to do what we call aseptic processing. So we need to ensure that everything that goes into the filling process is already sterile. So that means we need to do a sterile filtration on the drug formulation, on all the liquids and powders that go into the drug, and of course also all the components. So the container and the closure, the crimp cap, everything around that needs also to be sterile before it enters the filling zone. And this is of course challenging. So you need to select the appropriate sterilization method. You need to validate the sterilization processes and of course also monitor that. And there is a lot of guidance in the Annex I on these various sterilization methods that are out there, but of course all that needs to be validated, needs to be kept up to date, etc. So long story short, in order to make it easier for the manufacturer, he can outsource some of these process steps, and SCHOTT Pharma being a primary packaging provider, we can help the pharmaceutical companies by providing pre-washed and pre-sterilized containers, which have been processed by state-of-the-art processes that are in line with the EU GMP Annex I. And of course, we also have strategies in place to always keep it up to date and in line with the newest regulations, and that of course decomplexifies the manufacturing process for the pharmaceutical company, because they don't have to tackle that all by themselves, but they can really outsource that and, let's say, use it as, I don't, as an external service, so to speak. Yeah, so not only do they get very good primary packaging, but also with the added value that it's always using state-of-the-art processes.
Thank you. So I've learned or heard, Robert. So it's very important to select a trusted partner, right? And focus to the core competencies and outsource whatever can be done. Great. Would you like to add anything else, Robert?
There's so much to speak about.
I know.
About EU GMP Annex I. So I would say the following. Maybe for today, yeah, we could call it a day, as not to overload with a lot of the guidelines and all these details. I would say if there are more questions, I'm always happy, and I think I can speak for my colleagues. They are also always happy to assist other people in the industry that are interested about these concepts, and then really to get into an exchange and see how we can collectively move forward in providing safe and effective medication to patients around the world.
Thanks, Robert. Very kind. And thanks for providing this glimpse. It's a huge world, but this glimpse to this EU GMP Annex I updates and implications, and understand how selecting, let's say, your right partner for the primary packaging may make your life easier. So thanks for having been here. Thanks to the audience for hearing. Take care and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.